John, our guest this week is somebody we really like dealing with the New York Yankees. It's their catcher, Jose Trevino.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we got Jose on. He's a terrific individual, great in that clubhouse. And look, he's really the glue for that team. The pitching has been generally pretty good, even though it's been a disappointing start overall. That's mostly on the offense. And it's great to have a chance to talk to Jose. Just a great guy all around and a great defensive catcher.
On the subject of catchers who might not be catching great anymore is Willson Contreras and what's going on with the mess that is the St. Louis Cardinals. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Trevino's Yankees. We'll talk about the Mets. And that's if you stick with us on the show with Joel Sherman and John Heyman. John, we have a full panic going on by a team, and amazingly, it's not one of the New York teams. It's the place where, John, you know this town well. I believe your dad lived there for a long time, right? It's the town where everyone's so happy about baseball. It's St. Louis. The Cardinals have the worst record in the National League. They put their best prospect, Jordan Walker, on the team. They took their best prospect, Jordan Walker, off the team. Oli Marmol's fighting with Tyler O'Neill. But the big news of the week, Willson Contreras, their 5-year, $87.5 million free agent sign, he ain't the catcher anymore, John. And they didn't even have a plan. Half of them were talking about he's going to play some outfield. Then the president of baseball operations, John Mozeliak, said no. John, it seems like a mess in St. Louis.
Yeah, it's a stunning start. I mean, I had that team winning the division, as I think most people did. I'm still not giving up on that in that division where really no one is taken hold at this point, but it's bad. I mean, they are not together. Clearly, I'm not hearing great things out of that clubhouse. To me, what Marmol said was not that terrible, but in this day and age, you really, unless you're, a veteran manager, and he's, I think, the youngest manager in baseball, you probably can't criticize one of your players publicly. It certainly turned out very badly, but this Contreras thing is just a disaster. I mean, to read in The Athletic that they were gung-ho about signing him after a 3.5-hour meeting in Orlando, it made no sense to me. Either you like him as a catcher or you don't. He's in your division. He's with your biggest rival, the Cubs. He's been there for more than a half a decade. They should have known at this point whether he was the type of catcher who's going to be able to replace Yadier Molina. To go into the season thinking that he is, and then 6 weeks later, or less than that, decide, oh, he's not. It looks like a mess. I'm not giving up on this team winning the division because obviously they've got Goldschmidt, they've got Arenado, they have a lot of good players, but it's a mess right now.
John, it is interesting. If you go to any of the sites like, Baseball Reference or Fangraphs or Baseball Prospectus that does the odds to win the division, they still give the Cardinals a decent shot because location matters, right? If they were in the AL East, for example, they're done. It's over. They're not going to hopscotch all of those teams. They're in the NL Central where the Pirates are kind of a weak first-place team. We wonder about the Brewers' sustainability, the Cubs. They could get back. Having said that, I think you hit on the key point here, which is you had Yadier Molina for 20 years and Willson Contreras in a 3-hour meeting and somehow decided to throw out the strategy philosophy of how you've won for 2 decades. This is an incredibly successful team for 2 decades. To me, this was easy. You sign Austin Hedges or Mike Zunino, you make sure your catching stays really strong and you spend the rest on pitching or someplace else. The word was out on Contreras. Like, besides the 19 games you played in the division against them every year, the word 2 trade deadlines went by where nobody traded for him to be the catcher. Dusty Baker turned down the trade, right? He could have gotten traded to the Astros. He didn't want him to catch. He knew somebody like Justin Verlander was never going to throw over Martin Maldonado. He wanted to pitch to him. So the word was out. Like, on this, it feels like such a bonehead decision by an organization that does generally seem to have its act together for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, how could they have forgotten how important game calling is and all the defensive metrics? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. We knew that Willson Contreras is a very good hitter, but they went out and spent almost $90 million for a guy who's now the DH. And as a DH, he's just good. He's not that great. He really doesn't fit the team anymore. They can say that he's going to be a catcher later on. I don't know. What are they going to do? I mean, they obviously decided they don't like him as the catcher. So, I'm not sure that he's ever going to get back there. And they look indecisive to say that he's an outfielder for one day and then not. I think maybe they said that and they hadn't talked to him yet. And, obviously it's not that easy to play the outfield just out of nowhere. So I'm not sure what happened there, but this is not the Cardinal way.
There's a sliding door moment in this offseason, John, that I think is going to be something that gives and gives. The A's circled 5 teams that they would trade Sean Murphy to, that they thought had kind of a prospect base. I think it was the Red Sox, the Giants, Cleveland, St. Louis, and Atlanta were the ones. And there was a weekend, I believe, where I think everyone thought he was going to Cleveland, St. Louis, by the way, including Atlanta. Atlanta kind of dropped out of it. And they only got back into it when Contreras signed with the Cardinals. They couldn't believe it, and they jumped back in. This feels like such a, Murphy's almost the perfect guy. He's so good on defense, and it looks like he's breaking out. Like he was a good offensive player who looks like he's finding his star on offense. That is such a sliding door moment in this offseason. Braves have the best record in the league.
I mean, St. Louis must regret that. I mean, we saw Murphy in here with 2 3-run homers in a game he's batting cleanup for the best team in the National League, beyond being a great defensive catcher. I think, he was a missed opportunity for a lot of teams, but good for Atlanta to capitalize. They already had a decent catcher in Darno, but they said they understood how good Murphy is. They were the team that got it. St. Louis was the team that made the most sense, but Atlanta outmaneuvered them. Good for the Braves.
John, we also see this firsthand. Jose Trevino, our guest, won the Platinum Glove last year with the Yankees. Like the Yankees' run prevention abilities, and which starts with him as the spine of it, calling every pitch, framing so well, being a pitch whisperer, working so hard. This is the modern game. Like the one thing you're surely going to do every day is throw like between 140 and 200 pitches from a variety of different pitchers who are doing it. It's like saying, I don't care about the center in football, like who's giving the ball to my quarterback all the time. Like you can't just throw away this job. And it just felt like this switch to let's go heavily offensive at this position when you already have. You mentioned it why you weren't giving up on the Cardinals. You got Arenado, you got Goldschmidt, you got 2 big right-handed bats. It also felt like you probably needed if you're going to spend big on a bat, go find a left-handed bat. It feels like I'd like to have the recordings of that room to see like why.
Yeah, I don't get it. They made a big mistake. Obviously, the Cardinals do a great job drafting and developing. They've made some big mistakes. The Arozarena trade is not a good one. That Ozuna deal where they gave up Alcantara and Zach Allen were 2 of the best pitchers in baseball. That's one of the worst of the last 25 years or longer, probably. So they've made some odd choices. They do draft and develop well. But, I'm glad you mentioned Trevino. I think, to me, I wrote a column today about which team we should worry more about, the Mets or the Yankees. And I think Trevino is one of the separators there. The Mets still have an issue at catcher. I thought Narvaez was doing a nice job for the week that he was there. And right now, they don't have a, great starting veteran catcher playing, whereas Trevino with the Yankees, while he hasn't hitting as great as he did last year, the defense is huge. I don't really get why catchers are the lowest paid in baseball. They're 8th in ERA without Rodon, without Severino, and that's the reason that I am a little more worried about the Mets than the Yankees. Yankees 8th in ERA. The Mets are, bottom half in ERA right now. Starters ERA over 5. It's very worrisome, I think, for the Mets right now.
Yeah, this morning I broke something. The Mets signed Gary Sanchez to a minor league contract, trying to deepen their catching pool and also deepen maybe their power thing. John, I think there's a lot of ways to look at why a team struggles. But one statistic, I'm a big NBA guy, and there's separators in NBA games. Like, this Golden State Lakers series is being separated at the free throw line. If one team shoots a ton more free throws than the other, it's very hard to overcome, or you win 3-point or you win rebound. The Mets are losing the home run battle. I look at this every year, like who's plus minus in home runs. One of the successes of Tampa Bay this year is they've hit the most and given up the fewest. With all the problems the Yankees have had, they've hit 46 and given up 35. That's plus 11. The Mets have hit 36 and given up 52. It's minus 16. The one thing you know about a home run is it's at least one run. Like, you don't have to do anything else, and often it's more than one run. And aside from Pete Alonso, they're getting no power in the lineup, and it's hard for them to score runs. The pitching hasn't been great. John, I'm with you. There's a lot of if I were saying scale of 1 to 10, your concern level on the Mets, it would be what?
High. I'm going to say 7 right now. I mean, the Mets they haven't been great offensively. I mean, both teams have had a ton of injuries. Certainly, the Yankees have had pitching and hitting injuries. The Mets mostly confined to the pitching injuries, which explains partly why their pitching hasn't been so good. But what's the explanation for their offense being below average at this point? They were 4th last year in runs. They're in the bottom half this year on runs. The issues remain the same. They really don't have a true number 5 hitter. I do think Beatty is the one that makes the most sense. I think you brought that up earlier. I think moving him to 5 could do it. Catcher, they're getting nothing out of it in terms of offense. I think Alvarez has been fine behind the plate. Nito obviously is fine behind the plate, but we'll see. Maybe Sanchez could do something. Narvaez, I talked to him a couple of days ago, and he thinks he'll be back in a month. He hopes. They have some clear, obvious needs offensively, and from the pitching standpoint, I think it's worrisome. It's great that Verlander, Hall of Fame bound, is back. It's great Scherzer's able to go out there, but he's obviously got a multitude of injuries. Someone with the Mets told me that he could be, from a physical standpoint, an issue all year. This side or near the shoulder issue that he's got going on is something that he is battling daily. So there's a lot to worry about. It's not our $377 million, but it's a lot of money to spend if you're not a playoff team. I know it's early. We haven't even played a quarter of the season yet. Plenty of time, but I'm more worried about the Mets than the Yankees right now.
Yeah, $377 million doesn't go as far as it used to. The two highest paid guys on the team, Verlander and Scherzer. And I get you. I'm hearing the same stuff about Scherzer's back. Will he be able to endure the season? Will he need a couple more pit stops? I just think so much of the stuff with the Mets gets better if Scherzer and Verlander are suddenly guys throwing 6-7 dominant innings over and over again, because they're going to blow out their bullpen early, which, again, doesn't have Edwin Diaz. It forced everybody else to move up a role, and you just don't want to overuse. Ottavino and Robertson are in their upper 30s. Guys, you just don't want to kind of keep leaning on them. Drew Smith's been an injury-prone guy. Like, those are your best 3. There's some issues there. Let's flip it over to the Yankees, John. If I were asking you the same question, by the way, you didn't answer the 1 to 10 question. I'll see if I can.
I said 7.
Oh, you said 7. I've got to pay better attention. Scale of 1 to 10 on the Yankees. What's your concern level?
I'm going to say a 5. I mean, they're in last place, but it's a good last place. I do think Severino will be back fairly soon, and even without him, as I said, they're in the upper 3rd in terms of pitching, run prevention. Judge is coming back now. Stanton will be back at some point. Their offense obviously has been hurting. It's not been good. It's clearly well in the bottom 3rd at this point, but it's a much different team when Judge is on it. He feels like half the team. I know he's not, but it feels that way. And I think once he's back, I feel pretty good about the Yankees comparatively.
Yeah, what worries me about the Yankees is the second part of the sentence of Luis Severino is due back soon. The second part is, when will he be injured again? The reality is, and I had this debate with their general manager, Brian Cashman, where he said, well, we have a lot of injuries to explain why they've essentially been a 500 team since the middle of last season. He said, we have a lot of injuries. And I said, well, you have a lot of injury-prone players. It's a factor. It's not a defect. It is part of your team. If you have Giancarlo Stanton, there's going to be pit stops. If you sign Rodon, the history was he'd have injuries. Severino. So I'm just like, I don't think there's a magic moment where they all get healthy.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know. I think it's bad luck, but I don't know. I mean, just about everybody they seem to have acquired in the last year and a half has gotten hurt, right? Donaldson, he had a hamstring right at the beginning of the season. We have not seen him. Obviously, Stanton is out now. Efros is out. Loaizaga is out. Canely, we have not seen him yet. Trevino has got the Tommy John. Rodon, that's a big one. We have not seen him pitch yet. it just feels like just about everybody they've acquired, not IKF. I can name a couple that are not injured. Kiner Falefa is still healthy and playing every position. But
are you just trolling fans at this point?
Trevino, no.
Are you trolling fans by pointing out that IKF Hicks has been healthy also? You want to point that out?
No, I'm not going to point that out. Trevino has been healthy. There's a few guys who've been healthy. I'm not trolling anybody. I'm just trying to name the 2 or 3 guys that have acquired in trade who are healthy. I mean, obviously they've got doctors who are checking through things, and could be bad luck, but it is weird that everybody, and Montas, I almost forgot Montas, right? So, yeah. I mean, it's a long list.
Yeah, and look, John, you mentioned it as part of, I believe, your first answer on the Yankees. It's a little bit like real estate, location. I think if they were in any other division, I'd worry less. But yeah. I think you can play really well in this division. Right now, if the season ended today, of course it doesn't. If the season ended today, 4 AL East teams would make the playoffs. That's how good it is. The one that wouldn't is the Yankees at 19 and 17 as we speak. Now, I think some of this will even out over the long term. The NL West was all over 500 at this time last year, including Colorado and Arizona. Right. Stuff equals out. But I think that this is a really strong division. And at some point, the Yankees are going to need the health and the hitting to put up like a 25-10 kind of run for a quarter of a season to get to the place of comfort. And I'm not sure their health is going to allow it.
Yeah, well, playing fewer games in the division, that might help because the competition is going to come from some of those other divisions. Probably not the Central. I think there'll be one team out of the Central, but the West looks better, right? Texas has got quite a good run differential, not just in first place. Houston's not off to a great start, but we think they're a good team. I think the Angels are an improved team. Of course, we always like the Angels. We've been consistently wrong on this. I think I'm still sticking with the Angels as a good team. So I think basically everybody but Oakland is a pretty good team in that West. So, I think the Mets, in terms of the competition, are in a little bit better spot. I think both teams are unlucky to be in the division with the best team. Right now, the Braves and the Rays are the best teams. So winning the division is going to be difficult. But National League, it feels to me like you have 6 playoff teams, the other 5 being the Dodgers, the Padres, the Phillies, the Braves, and whoever is lucky enough to win that Central division are the 5. So feels like the Mets have a spot there for a playoff spot, and that is an advantage over the Yankees because I could see Seattle making, I could see Texas, I could see the Angels, and all the teams in the East are good. So I feel like we'll see, but I feel like there are 6 very good teams in the National League, and I feel like there are potentially 8 or 9 very good teams in the American League.
You mentioned Texas a couple of times there. They're getting great catching from Jonah Heim, but they really did give the Yankees a gift. They traded him Jose Trevino, who won the Platinum Glove for them last year as part of that great run prevention. And if you stick with us, he's going to join us next on the show with Joel Sherman and John Heyman. Back on the show with Joel Sherman and John Heyman, and we're very happy to be joined by the catcher of the New York Yankees, Jose Trevino. Jose, thank you for joining us. Usually somebody would come on a team that's over 500 well before Memorial Day, and we'd be talking about how great everything is going for the team. The Yankees are held to a pretty high standard and in a terrific division this year. We're 19 and 17 as we're talking, has you in last place. Can you, with expert eyes, look at this from 20,000 feet? Where do you think your team is, and how good do you think it could be this season?
Obviously the injuries have kind of come up early this season. But the good thing is about this team is we're very resilient, man. We're a close group, and we believe in each other, and we know that we're going to have each other's backs. We know that we might not be going through the best of times right now, but if we can just keep playing good baseball, keep bringing the energy, we got a good enough team to where, last place, the record, all that kind of stuff, you get us into competition with somebody, we're in. We're ready to go. So, I mean, obviously we're not happy with where we're at. We'd love to be in a better spot. But for where we're at to the cards that we're dealt with, I think we're doing all right.
Yeah, Jose, I mean, this team was the best in baseball through 90 games last year. It's been basically 500 since then, a little bit over. You think the injuries, does that explain it all? Do you guys feel that confident? I mean, right now you got the Rays, look like the best team in baseball. I mean, can you think about winning the division at this point?
Yeah, yeah. No, the Rays have a good team, but we got to remember, man, we were in the same boat last year. We were in the same boat. We saw how baseball plays out. It's a long game. There's a reason why we play 162 games. There's a reason why the season is long. Because anybody could get out to a hot start. Anybody could come out, go through a winning streak. Anybody could get hot at the right time. You see it all the time in baseball. And I feel like, yeah, we do have a shot at winning the division. It's early. It's very early in the season. And as the injury part, man, that stuff happens. We have an amazing training staff, an amazing strength and conditioning staff. And, injuries are going to happen. It's just how we deal with them and how we can get that next guy in line to kind of move forward.
John mentioned the Rays. You mentioned the Rays. Obviously, they're flying here. They're off to a close to historic start. They're leading the league in hitting. They're leading the league in pitching. You just played a couple of games against them. You have a set coming up against them this weekend. Can you frame them for us? Why are they this good, and why?
Yeah, no, they have a good team. They have a good team. They put a lot of good at-bats together, one after the other. And obviously the bullpen, the way they use their bullpen, getting different kind of arms in there. Starters are really good. It's just it's a good team. It's a good team. In the East, in the AL East, I mean, it's crazy. You look up and down the standings and you're like, wait, what? These teams are so good. So I love being in the East. I love playing in the East, and it just shows that the competition in the East is really good. And for the Rays to have a good start, that's good for them.
Gerrit Cole, you seem to have a great rapport with Gerrit, and just to ask, wondering what is the difference last year as opposed to this year, and what is it about him that makes him such a great pitcher? To me, it seems like he really, beyond having the talent, it seems like he outworks everybody.
Yeah, he does it. He does a really good job in between starts, perfecting his craft. I say perfecting because Gerrit is one of those guys that if he wants to get better at something, he's going to put his mind to. He's going to get better at it. There's no doubt in it. And the information that he gets, the information that he looks into, the preparation work, the physical work, the gym work, the mound work that he does. He does a really good job in between starts, and you can tell it's kind of starting to feed off on some of the younger guys and some of the starters that we have and some of the arms that we have. But he's been phenomenal this year. Obviously, hope to keep it going. For me, what changed from last year, man, is just, the way he's using all his pitches. He's using all of his pitches, all over all types of zones. He's working on a few things right now. But I think the way he's using his pitches all around the zone.
Jose, the Yankees are known as the Bronx Bombers, but the constant for the team the last few years about why even in tough times it stayed afloat is run prevention. You guys have been really good at that. Obviously, you've been part of that. You're able to improve pitchers. I'm thinking of someone like Ian Hamilton, who's all of a sudden a top relief pitcher in the American League. Michael King's career really took off. Is there a commonality? Is there a reason why you guys are good at preventing runs?
I think it's a pride thing. I think it's a pride thing, especially when it comes down to the bullpen. When it comes down to the bullpen, those guys take a lot of pride in not cashing in other guys' runs, putting a stop to when guys are on base, putting a stop to like, hey, no, I'm not giving up your runs. I got you. And on the defensive side for us, as an infield, as an outfield, we care. We care about, preventing runs. We care about making the plays. We care about making, the easy plays, and we care about trying to make those hard plays. Like, we just want to make the play. We just want to get an out. And for us, it's just making the routine play. And then when that ball is hit to us or anything, we try our best to make the play.
And despite the injury to Severino and to Rodon, you guys are 8th in ERA. So you guys are doing a good job, you and the pitchers. You're in that clubhouse. I know you're not a doctor. You're not a trainer. There are rumors that Rodon isn't going to pitch for a long time. I don't know that to be the case. I'm not hearing that. What do you think about the timetable for Severino Rodon? What are you hearing about that?
Yeah, I've got no clue about it. I pay attention to the guys that are in the clubhouse with us right now. Obviously, I check in with Severino and Rodon, ask them how they're doing, but for me, that's a little bit above my pay grade. I'm not a doctor either, so I got no clue. I just hope they're back real soon, because they're really big pieces for us. And obviously, everybody knows when they get added to this pitching staff how dangerous we really could be.
Well, let's dig down on that a little. We haven't seen Rodon this season. And obviously, Yankee fans are very familiar with Luis Severino. He seems the closer when he comes back. What did you see out of Rodon in spring training? And well, the way you're laughing, go ahead. Just take off from there.
This. I think this is a special dude. I played with him in 2012 on Team USA when he was at NC State. And I knew the competition level was like really high, but we had a live batting practice in one of the first couple days in spring, and this dude is a competitor. Yankee fans are going to fall in love with this guy. This dude just wants to compete. This dude just wants to win. He wants to get after you, and he wants to get off the mound, and then he wants to do it again. But we were in the field at George Steinbrenner Field in Florida, and I was a part of the live at bats, and we had a couple other guys in there, and he was throwing pitches and guys were taking pitches, and he comes out and he's like, "Hey, are y'all going to swing the bat today?" And I'm like, dang, I didn't know if he was talking to me or if he was talking to other guys, but he came up to me, he's like, "Hey, I wasn't talking to you, I was talking to the other guys." He's like, "I just want I want some action. Let's go. I want to see what guys are thinking, what guys are doing." But he's a fiery competitor. He loves to compete, which doesn't give me any doubt in my mind that, he wants to get back on the mound as soon as possible.
When the Yankees acquired you, there wasn't a big headline. Nobody thought much of it. You made the All-Star team. You won the Platinum Glove. How has this last year been for you?
It's definitely been life-changing. It's also been very rewarding because, I just didn't wake up and was an all-star. I just didn't wake up and was a Platinum Glove winner. I didn't do that. And I had to practice. I had to get better. I had to work at it. And I think that's the best part of it, is that finally came to fruition in, the biggest stage in baseball for my favorite team, and there's nothing more that I could ask for, and I can hang my hat on being like, all right, man, I was an all-star for the New York Yankees. And I'm very proud of that. I take a lot of pride in that, and just being able to wear the pinstripes, being able to play for the Yankees, I also take a lot of pride in that.
Jose, you mentioned it. It's a lot of work. Anybody who's in your clubhouse, fortunate like John and I, on occasion, you're always walking around with a binder. You seem like a permanent. I wonder if you can give an idea, because the game has kind of gotten more intellectual, more prep.
Yes.
Like, what are you doing to prepare for a game? Because as John mentioned, you're a Platinum Glove winner. You're not just good at this, you're spectacular at this.
Yeah. That's a good question. I'm going to try to give you some stuff without giving away too many things, but I can give you some things.
No one's listening. Just tell us whatever you need to know.
Yeah. No, for me, I'm looking at everything. My pitchers, I always try to gauge my pitchers of where they're at, how they're feeling, what do they like to do, where are they best at? Do they feel comfortable doing this? Do they feel comfortable doing that in certain areas of the zone, in certain pitches, certain pitch types? And that's all my pitchers. And then I flip it over and I go to the hitters. Are they hot? What are they hitting? What are they not hitting? Sequencing, pitch pairs, what works on certain guys. For me, there's a lot of things that go into it. It's a detailed process that I follow, that I've grown to do. And I had a lot of help from guys like Jeff Mathis, a guy, Brett Hayes, a lot of catchers that have played this game and that were very defensive minded and like, hey, you know what? Like, we need to get the best out of our pitchers. So that's you see me carrying around a binder. It's because I'm either filling out the starter for that day, trying to get, our game plan ready, or I'm trying to figure out their hitters, or I'm trying to get our bullpen and see, okay, this guy's going to be good here. Okay, I need to be ready because if we bring this guy in, this is the guy that he's going to face. This is kind of his lane. So there's a lot of things that go into it, just depending on the day. I could take like today, let's say today, 10 a.m. right now. After this, I'll start on my scouting report for today. for whoever's pitching today. The lineup that we have takes about an hour, 2 hours to kind of go through some of the stuff, and then I start putting together a game plan. And as the day goes on, I'm able to finish that, whether it's at the field or here at my home.
Since you're always studying the hitters, excuse me, you're always studying the hitters. Aaron Judge is the best hitter in the league. At least I think so.
Yeah.
Who would you say, you've studied them all, who are the next three you'd pick, say the toughest to get out?
Next three. I think I've got a lot of respect for a lot of hitters, and it would be hard to put three in that category because there's some good hitters. But what people don't understand now is like hitting is really, really hard now. Like the thing that pitchers are able to do with the baseball, the thing that pitchers are able to do with velocity and movement, like hitting is really, really hard right now. And I'll tell you, this is going to be no surprise. This is one of the guys, Luis Arias, very impressive, like super impressive what he's doing. But there's too many guys. There's a lot of dudes that I think, and people always get on my case. They're like, man, why do you think he's a good hitter? And I'm like, because of this, this, and this. Because of this, this, and this. Like he can do this, he can do that. He competes, he fights off good pitches. He gets something to hit and he doesn't miss it, that kind of stuff. But I think three guys would be way too late. I think there's a lot of good hitters in this league, a lot of good hitters.
Last I looked, Araz was still over 400, pretty impressive a week into May. Jose, you mentioned preparing for tonight. Obviously, people will listen to this at all different times, but starting tonight is Clarke Schmidt for the Yankees. And he seems like such an important guy for your team.
Yes.
There are peripheral numbers. His walk strikeout stuff is top of the league. But he's been hurt by lefty hitters. He's been hurt by the long ball. In the past, when it looked like that, it ended up being Chad Green, who they tried to do this with, had very similar, and ended up in the bullpen. Do you think Schmidt is a starter? And if so, why?
I think Clarke Schmidt is a very important role for us. Whether that's a starter or a bullpen guy, it doesn't matter which one it is. He's going to be a very important role to us because we need him. And like you said, he's at the top of the league, walk to strikeouts. Like this is the part that I love about this game is when people are like, oh, well, we got to figure out a way to get this guy out. And I'm like, let's do it. Let's do it. Oh, we need to figure out a way to get this pitcher on board. I'm in. Let's do it. Let's dive in. Let's look at it. Let's look at the hitters that he's facing. Let's look at maybe there's a different type of pitch we need to use. Maybe there's a different location where we need to go with a certain pitch. That's the kind of stuff that I love. So Clarke Schmidt for me is whether a starter or a reliever on this team, he's a very important role to us.
Joel and I had Jacob Stallings on when we were on MLB Network, and I asked him about the new rules and the throwing out runners now. You've been historically very good at throwing out runners. But what do you think of these new rules? It seems like, it's over 80% are successful. And you've got guys, not like me, but guys who are pretty, not that fast, stealing bases now. How are you dealing with it? And what do you think of the new rules?
Yeah, no, I love the new rules, including the pitch clock. Obviously it took some time to get used to, but the games are moving. And I think baseball players are best when they're not thinking too much. I think that's a good thing. Second, the base stealing, it's great. It's action for the game. We get more people involved. Catchers can throw more. And guys are going to take, like you said, guys are going to take more chances on the bases, which is great. And base running is a big thing in this game. Like, I don't know how many people really look into it, but like base running is a big thing. And like you said, guys like me and you, John, we're not so fast, but there's guys like us that are running and stealing and going first to third and scoring from second to home or scoring from first to home. Base running is very important. So I think it's great for the game, and to deal with it, I feel like we're like a month and a half, whatever it is in. And we're starting to see some trends. We're starting to see some guys, what they like to do in certain situations. So just like everything else, it's going to take time to play out. And once you figure out, we'll see where it goes.
I love you've showed us how thoughtful and educated you are, and yet you say the players are best when you don't think too much. I love that combination because here you are talking about how much you're studying at 10 a.m. for a game that's 9 hours away. A player on your team, the guy who probably made the most noise in spring training was Anthony Volpe. And he's had kind of a little interesting up and down first 5-6 weeks of the season. Seems like there's another adjustment's been made to him. He's been striking out a lot. What's your overall perception about him and what can be expected of him this season?
The kid is going to be, he's special. He's not going to be, he is special. Just like anybody knows in this league, you know, I always say I haven't had that much time in the league, but going through the ups and downs, seeing how guys handle it, like this kid hasn't changed one bit, man. He's everything. People talk about, you know, before this year, I'd never met him, but when people would talk about him, they're like, man, this kid is great. You know, high character kid. He loves to play the game and he takes a lot of pride in, you know, his defense, his craft. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I can't wait to see. And sure enough, he blew me away spring training. Like, it was very impressive. And, you know, as a first year guy, you know, there's the game of adjustments, and everybody knows that this is a game of adjustments, and you're going to have to make adjustments. And you can see him making the adjustments as he's going. Talk about striking out. He you know, he was hitting some homers. He was getting on. He was walking. You know, this is a part of the game. This is a part of the game. He's not a robot. You know what I mean? So he's going to have to adjust to this. And I feel like this happens with everybody. You know, they haven't seen a pitcher they've never seen a pitcher. They've never seen a pitcher like that. They never faced that guy. But the next time they face him, okay, we got him. You know, and I think that's something that when young guys come up, it's something that they don't realize, like, hey, dude, you've never seen this guy before. Like, it's okay. You're going to see him again. And when you see him again, you get him. You know what I mean? Just having the visual of seeing somebody that you haven't seen on the mound throw the ball, that helps a lot, you know, with future at-bats.
You know, we've asked you all about baseball, but I want to ask you about New York. You're a Texan, although I really don't detect an accent. You're from Corpus Christi. I think you live near San Antonio. You were a Texas Ranger, but you're happy being a Yankee. I know that you're very serious and studying all the time and want to do your best. Do you find time to do other stuff in New York? Do you like New York? Do you get out? I don't know if you want to say exactly where you live, but give us an idea of how you're enjoying the city.
No. I love the city. I love the city just as much as I study and stuff. You know, I understand that my mind needs a break from that kind of stuff, which is, you know, I value what I do, my job for the Yankees. I love playing. I love being in New York. I love the people in New York. I love going down to the market, seeing people and like people freaking out and being like, wait, are you? And I'm like, yeah. What's up? How's it going? And they're like, man, I thought you were somebody else. And I'm like, nope, like this is me. This is what you get. And I always get like, oh man, you look like a regular New York guy. And I'm like, it's perfect. Like, it's perfect. Yeah, you're right. I do. I blend right in. But no, I love the city. I love that when I go home for the off season in Texas, it's just, I can be, you know, I take it at my own pace. And then I love when I come here and everybody's just kind of like, it seems like on TV when people are just like flying by and you're walking real slow and people are just flying right by you and everybody's in their own world, you know, and you could go as fast as you want here. And in Texas, you can go as slow as you want. So I get the best of both worlds.
You know, when John and I are spotted out on the street, Jose, people aren't waving with their hands. We're usually dodging overhand rights. Yeah, I think we got New York surrounded. In general, I think you're upper west, John's upper east, I'm lower west. We're surrounding Manhattan today. And if I was going to wrap it up, I'd ask also a bigger picture question, because the big baseball story in the news today is about Wilson Contreras after 5 weeks. He's not catching anymore. Might not again. You're part of the fraternity of catching. What do you think from a distance as you're watching somebody from the fraternity essentially lose his job 5 weeks? In a way, it seems like scapegoated 5 weeks into a season.
Yeah, no, that's a tough question. You know, Wilson, he works very hard, man. He's one of the respected ones in this game that puts on the gear for sure. And like I said in the beginning, man, like for me, if you're not in our clubhouse and you're not wearing pinstripes, I'm not really too worried about you. But to see it everywhere, you know, I hope everything gets worked out. I'm not sure. I don't know the details on it. I don't know anything. I'm not diving into it or anything like that. But, you know, for me, he's one of the well-respected catchers in this league. I thought he's done a good job, you know. But obviously there's something going on. Maybe he needs to, you know, I heard there was like a meeting or something with some of the pitchers, stuff like that. That kind of stuff happens all the time. And I believe he'll get back on it. He obviously he got a great free agent deal, and I think he's gonna be great for them.
Well, Jose, you've obviously been great for the Yankees. As we mentioned, Platinum Award, All-Star, and you've shown your personality here, studious, fun, and learning to be a true New Yorker. Jose Trevino, thanks so much for joining us on the show with Joel Sherman and John Heyman.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Well, Jose Trevino was great. No surprise, John. We deal with him in a clubhouse all the time. He's a hit all the time when we're dealing with him, but we're going to play hit or error. What do you got?
Yeah, he doesn't make many errors, but I've got an error here. We touched on this earlier. I just don't get what the Cardinals are doing right now. I get that they won a couple in a row, but they really do look disorganized, and you wonder how long it's going to go on because, they do not expect to ever lose. I think they've had like one losing season in the last 2 decades, and it's going to be an interesting thing to watch, but it's been a mess to this point.
I'm going to say that something took a hit, and I wonder if it ends up being an error, which is the hit is the Astro rotation. Justin Verlander signing with the Mets. Lance McCullers Jr. hasn't pitched this year. Jose Urquidy has been injured, and now they find out that Luis Garcia, an important pitcher for them, is out for the rest of the year. He'll need Tommy John surgery. Hunter Brown has stepped in and done well. But as we're speaking, we're talking about some of the teams that are struggling early again. And you mentioned that maybe more than one team will come out of the AL West, but maybe the Astros aren't as good in the AL West. As we're talking, I believe they're one game under 500. I assume they'll get Altuve back and Brantley back. Bregman will get right. He's having a lot of trouble at the plate, and they'll be an offensive force again. But I do wonder about the length of that rotation.
Yeah, I mean, they have a great nucleus, but they got their hands full in that division. Seattle's a good team. Texas, I think, is better than we thought. And, of course, we do like the Angels. So not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy for Houston.
It was about this time last year where we really liked the Angels. I wonder if I could go back and erase all those tapes, John. I'm not gonna do it again. But if you listen to us then, hopefully you're still listening to us now. You'll keep listening to us. The show with Joel Sherman and John Heyman. It's a podcast by the New York Post. Thanks as always, our producers, Jake Brown and Andrew Hartz. They navigate us through this each week. Don't forget, this drops on the Yes app about noon on Wednesday each week. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and please give us a 5-star rating. And John, we're going to keep seeing what happens with the Mets and Yankees as they get through this season. And if you stick with us on the show with Joel Sherman and John Heyman, you'll take the trip with us. Thank you for joining us.